Hello everybody, Alan here with the Leadership Plan. I have read more than 150 books and research articles on leadership. In this video, I'm going to go over everything that I've learned about leadership after having read all of this material. I recently finished a Ph.D. in higher education leadership, and I did my dissertation on leadership, and therefore I have consumed probably too much information at this point. But anyway, let's get right into this. I'm going to share with you guys all of the amazing information that I got over 4 or 5 years of just consuming as much leadership information as I could. Okay, number one, and this one's going to surprise a lot of you. There is no accepted theory of leadership. There is no one single accepted theory of leadership that most of the people out there ascribe to and hang their hat on. What does this mean? Does this mean that leadership doesn't really matter or that it's not really true? No, I think part of the reason for this is that leadership research is ultimately social science research. It's the study of human beings and their interactions with each other and their environment. And human beings are extremely complex, and leadership is extremely complex. And so I think what happens is that leadership books and leadership theories and research articles on leadership, they're just looking at one little tiny slice of what leadership is, and then they're trying to draw some conclusions about that based on their study or their book or whatever. And so everyone that's contributing to the field of leadership is making a contribution, but they're really just adding one element to one specific part of what being a leader is all about. Another really interesting thing that I found out while reading all of these research articles is that there are no studies, in my estimation, that do a great job of correlating leadership behaviors to organizational outcomes. Now, a lot of research articles attempt to do this, and some of them come pretty close to doing this and show some correlations, but for the most part, the research articles that I found, again, they're looking at one very specific set of behaviors in the leader, and then they're looking at some very discrete variables or outcomes for the organization or for the followers. Whenever, at least the studies that I read, whenever there was a very large correlation between, let's say a leader was very high, exhibiting very high in the study on like 5 different leadership behaviors, and then the employees, let's say, exhibited very high job satisfaction and the unit was more successful and all of that sort of thing. For the most part, the ones that had large correlations, that is, it seemed to show that it was the leadership, these specific leadership characteristics that was the reason why they achieved all these outcomes. There was often, the way the studies were set up is that they were gathering data from just the same individual. So usually the followers, they would give a survey to the followers to rate their leader. And then those same followers in the organization would also rate their own satisfaction with the leader and their satisfaction with the organization. And so you can see how it's pretty obvious that if the individual says that the leader is a good leader, that same individual is also going to say that they're very satisfied with their job. And so it's not definitive evidence in my mind that those studies are actually describing what they say that they're trying to describe, or that they're producing results that show that this kind of leadership style is better than a different leadership style. The research studies that I found that did seem to provide, like the way that they set the research up seemed to be more coherent and more honest. They would usually find very, very small correlations, like 2 or 3% correlation for the leadership behavior to some organizational outcome, which in my mind is just, minuscule at that point. Like, who cares? And I don't think I don't think a lot of those research articles provide really important information about leadership in general. Another thing that I discovered in reading all of these research articles and books is that leaders that rate themselves, leaders that tend to rate themselves lower as leaders tend to be rated more highly as a leader by their followers. And the converse is true. those leaders that said that they were great leaders tended to be rated more harshly by their followers. And I think some of this stems from a lack of self-awareness on the part of leaders. And so I think folks that are more self-aware will realize that they do have shortcomings as a leader. And those people that are self-aware are probably also more developed human beings. And so therefore, they're probably better at interacting with other human beings. Whereas the person that walks into the room and says, I'm the greatest leader ever, that individual is probably less developed as a human being. And so they're going to have a harder time being an actually really good leader. And that's really a lot of what this channel is about. So if you are interested in becoming a better leader, subscribe to this channel and like this video, because becoming a leader is really about becoming a person. It's about becoming a better person. If you want to be a better leader, you must become a better person. And so I think that that's what those research studies are pointing at, is that, again, leaders that rate themselves lower as leaders tend to be rated higher by their subordinates and by their peers, and also by third-party auditors. So that's a very important takeaway from 4 years of reading leadership books and research articles. Another thing that I found is that the best theories on leadership or the research articles, books, research articles, they all seem to be pointing at the same phenomenon. So one research theory might say, these are the 6 behaviors that all good leaders must have. Or the other one will say, my leadership theory is the theory of X, Y, and Z, and there's 8 fundamental behaviors of leaders. And then there's another one that's got 4 fundamental behaviors of leaders. And part of the thing that I did in my dissertation was I looked at all of these and compared them. And if you do compare those leadership behaviors side by side, what you find is that they're all kind of pointing at the same thing. And this kind of gets to my first point about how there is really no one accepted leadership theory out there that everyone widely agrees upon. And that is because folks that think about leadership from a scholarly standpoint are often looking at the same phenomenon, but they're just describing it in a different way, or they're describing only a portion of it. And so I think that's why that's the case. But finally, the last thing that I discovered in reading all of this information about leadership is that, I'm also a leader, right? So I did a lot of research on leadership, and I'm also a leader. And I think the biggest takeaway for me in all of that was that there is a very big difference between leadership, especially the study of leadership or the development of leadership theory, and leaders. There is a very big difference. Being a leader is much more complex than what you're ever going to see written in a book, especially a book about leadership theory. The books often that, like the best books, the ones that are written by serious scholars, not retired generals that say, I'm a retired general now, so I'm going to write a book on leadership, or presidents that don't know what to do, so they write a book on leadership. I'm talking about those that have really thought about the phenomenon of leadership. They really have to, as I said before, kind of boil leadership down into this manageable set of variables and behaviors in order to make a coherent argument about the thing that they're trying to describe. In reality, when you're a leader, it's much, much more complex than that. And that's again, that's what this channel is about. It's about helping you all understand the arc that you need to be on to develop yourself, to become a better human being and become a better leader. It's my lunch break and I need to get back to work. I'm still under COVID quarantine at home with my entire family, which has been awesome. And I wish all of you guys the best day possible. Thank you. Bye.